Hello, hello, hello. It's LaShawn from Rooted and Reckless, and I am excited to be going live. This is my second live, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm doing things a little bit different, so please let me know if you can hear any echoing. I have added a second camera, so hopefully there is not echoing. I'm using StreamYard to go live, and so I um, I know it can be tricky a little bit to add the second camera without the echoing. I also want to make sure that I can see all of the comments that come up so I can respond to them in real time. So thank you everyone for responding to the poll that I put up asking about what I should cover in this next live. And there were two things that came up as a tie. One, it was to talk about my experiences with mail order, like in the mail order plants, but also to talk about or to give an update about how my use of lava rocks has pretty much had a significant impact on fungus gnats, which is if you have plants, you definitely are struggling with fungus gnats. So we're going to dive right into it. If you do have questions, please drop them in the chat because I will answer those questions. I know that there might be questions about the use of the lava rocks to basically significantly mitigate fungus gnats. So definitely drop that in the chat as well. But I'll talk about exactly what I did in that process. But let's start with the plants. So let me just say this. I have received plants through Amazon. I receive plants through Palm Street. I receive plants from Etsy. Um, where else? Oh, I received plants from Facebook Marketplace. Those are the four places that I have received plants for market, plant market places that I received plants from. And I'm going to say this, that overall, my experience has been pretty positive. And I would say that the biggest factor in how you receive your plants, or there's two things that I would say the biggest factor that I've seen. And I've gotten plants from, I'm going to say, basically maybe a dozen people or just under a dozen through all of those areas is I will say packaging, and I will say the mail service, UPS, US Postal Service. Those are the two that I think most of my plants have came through Amazon. Obviously, they have their own shipping. And so the packaging plays a big role because the thing out of those two things, the mail service, UPS, US Postal Service, USPS, Amazon, or any of these other packaging delivery services, the one thing that you do have some control over is how these plants are packaged. And I would say you have no control over the delivery service. Once that package leaves the seller's hand, they have no control over what's going to happen with that package. And I would just say they have to expect that the worst is going to happen with that package, that it is going to be treated in the worst condition. And they almost have to pack these plants as if they're packing glass, and take the same type of precautions that they take when they pack glass or when glass is packed. Because if you don't do that, you almost, I feel, can guarantee that your plant is going to arrive in the worst possible condition. In fact, I think you can almost guarantee that your plant is going to die unless you put a lot of effort. And for some of these plants, we pay a lot of money and we pay a lot in shipping already. And so I would say that if the seller is using those funds to really put those shipping costs into shipping the plant, I think that that does help. With all of that said, I will say that I've only had one really bad experience where pretty much everything that I ordered died or is dying. And the parts that are living are to be seen as to whether they will die. And I think it was a combination of definitely the delivery service. Um, that plant, that box arrived. Like I said, I've received, you see all these plants around me, all of these, and this is not even all of them. I still have a couple that I just got yesterday that I need to bring over. Um, that was the worst that I've ever seen. The box was basically mangled, and everything in it was destroyed pretty much. It was broken. The plants were broken. All of the soil was just spread out throughout the box. It was wet even. Um, and it was just really bad condition. I will say that there was definitely a lot to be desired in terms of how the package probably left the seller. I think that it just wasn't done in a way that it could survive. I think even under the best conditions, it probably would have struggled. But the fact that I lost literally, I would say 90%, and the couple of things that I do have left at this point are struggling significantly, and I'm not sure whether they will make it. That is the worst that I've ever seen. So I would definitely say if you are spending a lot of money on a plant, and you really want to make sure that the plant makes it to you, have a discussion with the seller about how they're packaging it, particularly if it's a larger size plant. Um, because I would say that if they don't put a lot of effort in packaging it, especially if they are charging you $25 for shipping, cost, I would say find out, what are they doing? How are they packaging that plant? Because if you don't find out what they're doing, you could literally spend $100 on a plant that literally arrives to you dead, basically not able to live, because it's so damaged. All right. So that's the biggest thing. Again, packaging, and then of course, which the sellers do have some control over, but they don't have control over once that plant leaves them. And so the best thing that they can do, the best thing that you can do as a buyer, is to have some discussion with the seller about what they're doing, how they're packaging it. And obviously these things cost. And so if you spend a lot of money on a plant, you may be wanting to work with the seller to spend a little bit more on the packaging to ensure that the packaging is sufficient to protect the plant. Because again, the delivery services don't care anything about the live plants on here sticker, this side up sticker, because I have received plants and those things almost as if they're not on the box. With that said, I have received, again, the majority of the plants have been in great condition, and a big part of that, I feel, is because of the way the seller has packaged the plants. Okay, so let's talk about Amazon. I think Amazon is probably the easiest one to talk about. I ordered from two different places from Amazon. This is a King Vici plant, a smaller plant that I have ordered. I ordered this because I was impatient. I ordered a King Vici, this bigger one that you see from Ecuador. I had ordered that one in June, and I knew it was going to take several weeks to get here. And so I got impatient. And so I ordered a smaller King Vici from a local stateside vendor. And I would say that this plant arrived probably with 3 leaves on it that are basically similar to the sizes of the 3 leaves. This is the last remaining original leaf. And this plant arrived in excellent condition. It was bright, it was beautiful. It was packaged in came in like a 2-inch or 1-inch little plug. And it was the soil was basically like mud. It was packed on there. So I immediately took the soil off because I was worried about the plant, basically the roots rotting in that soil. And it was very like thick, like mud. It was basically like a plug, and it was surrounded by some thicker soil. I would say like potting soil or something. And with I put it in my greenhouse. And did I put it in my greenhouse? No, I put it in a um, humidity bag. I did not put this in my greenhouse. And within a week, it started pushing out new leaves. Now, I will tell you that I did put it in my greenhouse. I will tell you that the damage that you see is damage that came from me. I realized that this plant did not do well with 100% humidity for any extended period of time. And the leaves immediately got saturated with, it got oversaturated, what they call like edema or overswelling of the cells. And these thin leaves, it showed on the leaves. And when it dried out, the leaves basically had some cracks in it. It really struggled to survive. And every leaf that I lost, those two original leaves, and likely this leaf as well, was, I think, a result of too much humidity and the plant not being able to recover from that high humidity state. With that said, the roots are great. I've already, as you could see, I think this is a 4-inch pot. So it went from that 2-inch little plug to a 4-inch pot, and it's been June. I got this early June, so June or mid-June maybe. June, July, August, and we're almost in September. So I've had it 4 months. It's pushed out probably 4 new leaves, or yeah, not 4 new leaves. Let me see. This is new. This is new. And there was one other one that was new that was damaged. So 3 new leaves. And again, it has really good soil. It's not in the greenhouse anymore. But overall, this plant has done really well. I got this one shipped from Amazon, a stateside seller. So, and the box, it came in an Amazon box, and it was shipped very well. So that's my King Vici. This only other order that I did get from Amazon was my plants that came from Ecuador, and they did not come in an Amazon box, but they were shipped from a seller that sold on Amazon. And I will say that these plants, although they came from Ecuador, they were shipped very well. The seller basically packaged the items so that they were able to survive whatever shipping hit them. And the box was, kind of, you could tell that it had been through some things, but the plants were unaffected, 100% unaffected. And so let me just tell you how it was packaged. The plants did arrive with soil. They were unpotted. The soil was basically wrapped in a plastic bag with a rubber band around the soil part. And then each one of the plants were packaged that way. The soil was never going to get out of those plastic bags unless you took it out of the bag. So the soil was basically in those bags. It was elastic rubber band was tied around them. And then they were placed in paper bag, basically type of material. And they were taped shut and basically laid flat. And so in this single box, I got this large King Vici. And like I said, it came in excellent condition. Any damage to the plant occurred as a result of me trying to acclimate it. You'll see that this actually happened in the last week because I had this in my greenhouse and it was up against the light. And so it burned the plant. So I'm very upset about that because this is a beautiful leaf. And I was on vacation. I didn't realize it, and it burned the plant. So it just looks like at this point, it's still very soft. It looks like it's just a discoloration. But this plant also did have, unfortunately, some of that edema because the humidity was too high. During overnight, just one night, I caught it early, and it looks like there was not any long-term, maybe just a little spot that had some long-term. But what I will tell you is that you have to absolutely be careful about the humidity with the King Vici and Anthuriums because their leaves can be very sensitive to oversaturation. So you want to be careful. But anyway, this live is not about that. This live is about how these plants arrive. So this plant, again, the root system was amazing. And I ordered the plant like mid-June, and it arrived the first week of July. So about 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, but less than 3 weeks. And the roots were in amazing condition, at least for this particular plant. I also got a El Chaco Red that when I received it, it had one leaf that was basically dead. So I ended up pruning that one leaf. These are the other three leaves. Some of them had some damage, physical damage to the front of them. And the root system was a little bit impacted. Let me just turn this. And so I've had this in the greenhouse pretty much since then. It has not produced any new leaves. And I'm actually going to unpot this today to see what's going on with the root system. Because I did end up unpotting my King Vici because that also has not produced any new leaves since I've gotten it. It's been 2 months and no new leaves. And so that one does have new roots. And I realized that I wasn't watering it enough for the type of mix that I had it in. So I did create a self-watering system for this. And we're going to see if that actually helps, if I can keep myself from burning the leaves or damaging it in any other way. So I'm going to do the same thing. But overall, this arrived in pretty good condition, considering that it came from Ecuador. Here is another plant. Actually, I got another one. So I ordered two Adansonii in that order as well from Ecuador. One of them was in really bad condition. The roots basically were damaged significantly. And I have a piece of that left that I am still rehabbing. I don't know if it'll make it or not, but this one is doing really well. It's pushed out 1, 2, 3 new leaves. And these two, it came with some leaves. They were all bigger like this. They have all since died off. This is the last bigger leaf that is left. But it has pushed out these newer leaves of that. So, and the roots are doing really well. It has a lot of new roots. So I imagine that this is going to be doing well. This is still in my greenhouse. I think it can come out soon just because it's got like 3 new leaves. It's got a really good root system. And so the moral of that is that it did survive well. And then I have a Syngonium confetti that was a gift plant that I got. So let me get that. That also is doing really well. So this one is the Syngonium confetti. I just took it out of the cover box, but it has been in the greenhouse up until this week. I took it out finally. Almost all of these leaves are new leaves. The original leaves did die off. But I think all of these, maybe except for one, is a new leaf. It's got lots of roots. I did repot this, and this is a 5-inch pot, I believe. I think this is 5 inches. Let me see, 4. This is a 4-inch pot. So it came in, again, in a little plastic bag with this wrapped around the root and soil part of it. I did repot it when I received it. And it's doing really, really well. It's out of the greenhouse. So as far as my Amazon plants, I would say they are shipped really well. One stateside, one out of the country. And I pretty much have them all still. It's been a couple of months and they really shipped them well. So there's that. The second vendor or the second marketplace was Facebook Marketplace. I got one plant from there and my daughter actually picked it up for me while I was on vacation. That one did not come through the mail. That was just a meat to pick up, but the plant was in excellent condition. The price was great. And so I would say I didn't do that one through the mail, but as I mentioned in the beginning, you know, if anytime you order anything through the mail, if you spend any money and you're concerned, you definitely want to have a conversation with the seller about packaging, because they can't control the delivery service, UPS, USPS, Amazon, but they can control how they package it. And that has a big factor in how that plant is going to arrive. And as somebody who has purchased from at least 12 different, I can see the differences between the packaging. And you don't have any control over the delivery service, but you do have control over the packaging. And many of the sellers charge upwards of $20 for shipping, which I know shipping costs a lot of money. So $20 probably seems like nothing considering the price that they have to pay to ship it. But if you're going to pay, you know, 50, 60, 70, $100 for a plant, you want that plant to survive. And after getting a package where basically everything died, and it's not all on the seller, but the packaging definitely played a role. That packaging was never going to survive even the best conditions of delivery service. So it can definitely play a role. Anyway, okay, so that was Facebook Marketplace, pretty good, although I didn't do a mail order. It was a pickup. Amazon, two different vendors, both of them. I had all of the plants. They did well. Now let's go to Palm Street. So Palm Street, I ordered a ton of plants. The majority of the plants that you see on this table came from Palm Street, probably a half a dozen or so different vendors. And the one vendor that I talked about in the beginning, where I said that basically almost everything died, that came from Palm Street. Again, I'm not putting it all on the seller, because I do believe a big part of why everything died was they basically had a boxing match with those plants in the box, and everything came out broken. And I'm gonna give you an example. And I know that these plants were in great condition because I saw pictures of them before they were shipped. So one of the things that I bought was a Monstera Adansonii. I think this was an Albo. I can't even remember at this point. But basically, this had several branches, and they were broken. I was trying to conserve this one because, again, once this goes, I've lost everything. I've lost literally everything, and I lost all the cuttings except for one. So let me be clear. I have one, two, three. I had like 10 cuttings, and I have like 3 that are left, and we'll see if they survive. And then I had 2 big Monsteras. I think one was an Albo. I can't remember what the other one was. But basically, the plants were broken. They were snapped in half. It was, like I said, it was almost like somebody broke them. This piece was basically snapped but connected. So I saran wrapped it around because the root system was really good. So I saran wrapped it and put it in here. We'll see if it makes it. I had to end up cutting all the other pieces off. I have this little piece of leaf left to photosynthesize. As you can see, the leaves were also very damaged. I had to cut a lot of the leaf off. So we'll see what happens. I've heard that, you know, Monsteras are hardy and they will survive. So we'll see if this heals itself. And if you have any recommendations I've been asking about this as well. If you have any recommendations on, you know, things that you can use to heal or help mend broken stems or leaves that have, you know, cuts in them, let me know because I'm looking for something. Anyway, this is one of the plants that came from the vendor where I lost almost everything, and I got a nice package of plants. It was probably about 15 plants, and they all came in one box, and pretty much the box was mangled in every way. Here is another piece that also came. This is probably the best condition. You could see this leaf, which is not in great condition. But this is basically, I put this in some soil, but this is probably the best of everything that I've received, all the 15 plants that I received. It was bad. It was really bad. I also have, so some of the cuttings, so those are the only 2 plants that actually had roots that I have from that order. This is a cutting that I had received, and I've pruned it back significantly. And I put it in some vermiculite and perlite because, again, it's, I think it might make it, but who knows? It's got a new leaf and it came this way. This is not something that came out since I've had it. So we'll see. I have it in the greenhouse. We'll see how this does. I'm keeping a close eye on it. But the fact that it's not dead, the other ones literally basically died within 24 hours. And here is what I have left of the other, let me move these out the way. Here's what I have left of the other cuttings. And I just changed the water today. So I've had these now for a week and a half. So we'll see. This is what I have of this one. Definitely a rehab situation based on how it arrived. This is a Gnats, I think is what it is. It's got this one little leaf left. I'm trying to keep it on for photosynthesis purposes. And here's this one. Again, this is actually looking a little bit better than it did when I first got it, or the day after I got it. So we'll see how this does. But these are of the maybe 15 cuttings that I received, these are the 4 from that order. Everything else has died. I mean, when I say it died, I mean it rotted. Like, it just got crispy black. The roots died off. I had to end up discarding it. So there's that. All right, so that was that. Everything else pretty much came from Palm Street in excellent condition. I mean, it looked exactly like it looked on the pictures. It was packaged well. And so again, what I will say is, I'll reiterate what I said earlier, which is that you want to make sure you have a conversation with the seller, find out how they're packaging it. Because I know that in the end of the day, they want you to get these plants in good condition as well. The other thing you just want to be mindful of is that there is going to be sometimes stress that the plant undergoes. This is a plant that I received from Palm Street, another seller. It came in excellent condition, but it is going through some acclimation stress, which I'm trying to minimize by keeping it in really good conditions that help to promote that in my greenhouse. I have not unpotted it yet because I've had a conversation with the seller about what it's in, and it's good for the plant. This is an alocasia, but you can also see that it has a little bit of like that orange color and some thinning of one of the leaves, particularly on the variegated part. And this is the second leaf that this has happened to, but doing some research, this is normal. Sometimes when plants come through the mail, the change in the temperature, the cold, the hot, this can happen with the plant. But I will tell you that in the week that I have it, it's got a new leaf that is pushing out. So if you could see that, I don't know if you could see that well, but it's got a new leaf that is pushing out right there. So that tells me that, and the 2 biggest, most variegated leaves are doing amazing. So I'm just hoping that they continue to do well. And this is a beautiful, beautiful alocasia. And so it shipped well. The seller packaged it well. It had no damage. When I got it, all the leaves were intact, 100%, no damage. Here is another one that I received. It had a little bit of damage. It was, first of all, let me say, this plant was packaged extremely well. It had a little teeny cut in one of the leaves, as you could see. I mean, it was so teeny, so little, but it looked exactly how it was. I will tell you that this also has been here a week, and it also has some new growth that is starting. If you could see that little piece that's sticking out right there, but it's beautiful. I think it arrived well, and I contribute all of that to the way that the seller packaged this plant. It's doing well. I do need to repot this. It's in a mix of, it looks like perlite and sphagnum moss. So I'm just giving it some time to acclimate. Especially one of the reasons why I'm not in a rush to repot it, because it's clear. I can see what's going on with it. The roots look great. And so I'm giving it time to acclimate, and it's doing really well. The fact that it's already got a new leaf that's starting to push out is exciting to me. Woo! Don't want to drop that. Okay. Here is another one that came in excellent, perfect condition, which is great for a plant that is this size. This is a Monstera. This might be an elbow. I gotta look it up and see exactly what it is. But this leaf was unfurling when I got it. It was like partially unfurled. It has since pretty much hardened in the last week. I've had it in my greenhouse. It had no real damage. Just there's a couple of like little brown marks on the back of this leaf, but you can't even see them from the front. That leaf looks really, really good. It's the most variegated of all of the leaves. And it's the newest leaf that has come out. I do need to repot this one as well because it's got peat moss all on the top, and I have not had a chance to look at the leaves, but again, I followed the seller and feel really comfortable about the way that they've maintained this plant. And the fact that it came to me with no damage, and it's a huge plant. This, like I said, the seller did a phenomenal job packaging it, and you have to package it in a way that it can survive the shipper, because the shipper doesn't care about your plant at all. And it arrived zero damage, even with a soft leaf that was unfurling. No damage. The leaf has not one single rip in it, and I attribute that to the way that the seller packaged it. Another one that also came with zero damage. Zero damage. Also a pretty big plant. This leaf was in the process of unfurling, and it was also very soft. Zero damage. Zero damage. And it also has it just pushed out this new leaf right here. I did repot this in a same size pot, but I put it in a clear and put different soil just because I wanted to be able to monitor it. And it's responding well because, like I said, it's pushing out a new leaf. You could see that one right there. So another Palm Street seller that did extremely well. I put reviews on all of these sellers, all of the sellers, Facebook Marketplace, Amazon, Palm Street. I put reviews very detailed about how it was packaged, very detailed about how the plant arrived, because I think it's helpful to be able to look at those things as a buyer and say, okay, what is the likelihood that my plant will do well? Another plant, again, I said most of the plants that I got from Palm Street arrived undamaged. Here's a begonia that I received. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful plant. Came in this little 2-inch pot, but is doing very well. Has been in my greenhouse for the last week. I just watered it yesterday, and it's just beautiful. It's doing really, really well. And again, this is a large, even though it's slender, it's a large plant. And it's easy for all of these stems to break. It didn't. So I attribute that to the way the seller packaged it. Another begonia also arrived in excellent condition, not damaged at all. I did repot this. So yeah, it's doing really well. This is still in my greenhouse. I'm probably going to move the begonias out of my greenhouse and just put them in a high humidity area in my bathroom. I have some shelving in my bathroom where I have another polka dot begonia, and I'm going to put these two there as well, probably next week, because I think that they can do really well. I just recently received 2 more plants, and I want to talk about these plants because of the way that they are different from the other plants that I received. So these ones actually came with pond, and they came in a container, a self-watering container. The way that the seller packaged them is that the seller basically removed the water from the reservoir. Obviously, you don't want to ship with water. And basically taped over so that all the pond would stay in place surrounding the plant. And these plants arrived in excellent condition. They also wrapped the leaves, and this one is a really hard one because look how the leaves are. And none of the leaves are damaged. Zero damage to the leaves at all. And there's even a new leaf that is in the middle of coming out. So all about the packaging, the fact that this plant arrived with zero damage. Look at these leaves, how they're all spread out. And the seller did an amazing job packaging this. Same thing with this. Look how big this plant is. Did the same thing in terms of the pond, how they packaged it to make sure none of the pond actually came out. This plant is still in the process of kind of relaxing some because the seller did wrap this plant so that it was, they were up, the leaves were up quite a bit, and then packaged it with some like cushioning around it. So this one is still in the process of relaxing a bit, but it is doing amazing. The leaves look great. I have since put water back in the reservoirs of each of these. And so hopefully, we'll give it some more time and see how they respond. I'll see how this leaf, it arrived with this leaf. I believe it might have left the seller without this leaf being fully out. So, because when I sent the seller pictures, they were like, oh, look, you got a new leaf. So and it wasn't on my pictures. So it tells me that that's something has come out in the last week during the shipping process. The last thing that I'll mention is one other plant that arrived in pretty good condition. I would say that this plant was one that I got from Palm Street. I did repot it when I received it. But I will tell you, this is a mandula. It's actually 2 different kinds of mandulas that are potted in the same pot. And what I will say is that it started to develop some brown spots. I did some research and I know that that is some of this that can come as a result of stress from the shipping process. And so it still is in my greenhouse. It still is having some of the brown spots. I'm cutting them out. So we'll see. You can't see any of the brown spots because I've cut most of them out. But if you look down here, you'll see that there's this huge hole right here. That was a brown spot. You will see that here's another one. So I'll put it closer so you can see. But you can see that's a brown spot that I cut out. Here is another one that I've cut out. And then there's one like right there. I don't know if you can see that one that I've cut. But it arrived pretty much like it was sold to me in pretty good condition. And let me just get my Facebook Market, my Etsy. Okay, so here is plants that I got yesterday or the day before from Etsy. Also arrived in really good condition. I'm excited about these plants. We'll see how they do, but so far they arrived packaged again very well where there was tape over the top part. The seller did also put these little sticks in here to keep it from crushing the actual plant itself. Again, I'm just going to say packaging is everything. If the seller puts effort into packaging the plant, it's the likelihood of you getting the plant undamaged is going to be significant. They don't have control over the delivery service, but they do have control over the packaging. And you can tell when you receive it whether how much effort was put into the packaging. And so they did an excellent job with packaging these because they were undamaged. Again, taping, or leaving it in the soil, taping it over so that none of the soil escapes the thing. And the soil, and it was shipped dry. So I did need to water it when I received it, which I watered it and it's dried already. But I do have it in direct sun because these are succulents and they like to be in the direct sun. Okay, so that is all I have about my experience with Etsy, Facebook Marketplace, Palm Street, Amazon. Those are the marketplaces that I have purchased plants on. And so hopefully you find that part helpful. I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about, or the next segment of this is I'm going to talk a little bit about what I did to basically get rid of fungus gnats. I shared with you, maybe it's been a month now. I have to go back and look at the date, but I just got overwhelmed with the amount of fungus gnats. I went from 20 plants to about 80 plants in a very short period of time. I also went from those 20 plants that I had were all of them were self-watering, and I pretty much had 0 fungus gnats. I converted all of my self-watering plants to regular pots because I found that I was having the incident of root rot that I was having was increasing. And so I felt like I needed to do some things to better manage my plants. And part of it is seeing what's going on with the roots. And I could not do that in the self-watering pot. So I basically got rid of all the self-watering and repotted them all into clear pots similar to this. So every one of my plants that I have received or that I have is in a clear plant, except for these newer ones that I've just received, which they will eventually get there as well. And I've been having success with this. It's a lot more work because I have to manage all of my plants and know when to water them and check them. And I got, at this point now, I have over 100 plants that I have to monitor. So I do use Airtable, and I could talk about that in another live about how I monitor and manage all of my plants. But anyway, so basically what I did is, let me get one of my plants so you can see. I know I have a plant here that I have. Oh, here we go. It's just so dark, I can't even tell. So I basically took every single one of my plants, and here's my King Beachy that I have right here. And I put 1/4 to 1/4 to a 1/2 inch layer of these small lava rocks on the top of every single plant. And basically what that does is, anything about fungus gnats, that they lay their eggs in the top layers of the soil, and this lava rocks basically keeps that top layer dry, and it prevents the fungus gnats from getting down into the soil. And so if you're able to look at this, I don't know if you're able to see this, but this has basically been on there from the beginning. And these are the fungus gnats that were captured, and there are literally no more fungus gnats flying around. So if I go and water my plants, it used to be as soon as I started messing with them, a gnat would fly out. And now, none are flying out. So they're all basically captured. What was remaining is captured on these little stickies. And there's going to come a time where I'm going to switch these out. And they probably will hardly have any, because these hardly have any on them. These are just basically what is collected over the last month since I have switched over to doing that top layer. And so here is what the lava rocks look like. And I put, again, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch on the top of every single plant. And it has worked. It has worked. I've heard some people say that it's, I don't know that people believe that it works, but it was the best money. I bought 2 18-pound bags of lava rocks off of Amazon. And that pretty much covered all of my plants, and I do still have some left, I do reuse it. So when I repot it, I basically take it off of the top and put it in a sifter to get like any of the wood and all of that stuff to rise to the top. But I reuse this each time. So I haven't had to buy any more. Obviously, I just did it a month or so ago. I have enough to finish the rest of these plants here when I convert them over to their final potting, take them out of my greenhouse. So I do have a couple of little fungus gnats inside my greenhouse. Not that many. I put sticky traps in there, not anything like what I had before, nothing close to what I had before. That's because I don't put the lava rocks on the plants. The lava rocks do help to keep the moisture in, so you want to be mindful when you're watering, but I have no problem with sticking my my water meter in to see, like, you know, how much water my plants need. I use that to help along with the visual test to see when do I need to water my plants. The other thing that you could do if you're looking for an alternative, obviously if you use leca or pond, you don't have to worry. So that is one of the things that I did with I have 5 moss poles, 3 big ones and 2 smaller ones. I've converted the bottom, the bottom part of those to either leca or pond, or some type of soilless chunky mix that I put into it. And that has also significantly cut down on any fungus gnats coming out of my moss poles. Also, when I water them, I am using our best friend, mosquito bits, when I water my moss poles. So I have them on a cycle of, you know, every other water, or at least once a month. Not every other water, because I'm watering my moss poles pretty frequently. But once a month, I'm using these mosquito bits. And that I'm making a tea that is basically keeping the mosquitoes away. And so the other thing I will mention is that I just received this plant from my uncle. And when I went to his house, I noticed that he's got sand at the top. Now, sand is a lot more messier. So I'm actually at some point going to convert this over to lava rocks. I'm going to repot this, but this is a plant that has multiple plants inside this big planter, but there is sand in the top of here and no fungus gnats at all. Again, sand is about as dry as you can get. And so he has sand layered in the top of all of his plants, and that is how he's kept his fungus gnats away. So if you are still struggling with fungus gnats, I definitely encourage you to look into lava rocks. They are pretty inexpensive. I can't remember exactly what I paid for the 18-pound bags that I have, but you can reuse them. So you don't have to, like, when you repot your plants, you can take the lava rocks off of the top layer and put them right back on. You can water through the top of them. They also help with water retention. So you have to be, you know, it's a positive and a negative. You have to be careful with that. You don't want your plants to stay wet too long. But you also want to make sure you don't overwater them. So just be mindful of that as well. But I haven't had any problems since I've done this. I want to say it's been over a month. I will put it in the chat somewhere when I finish doing this live. I'll look it up exactly. But what I will say is that it's been a great experience, and I'm so glad that I did it because I don't see any fungus gnats flying around at all. Zero fungus gnats. And I put the lava rocks on, like I said, 1/4 to 1/2 inch. I watered with the mosquito bit, or BT, excuse me, BTI. I watered with this in my next watering, and I'm actually about to do another round of watering with BTI again to all of my plants because it's been, I know it's been over a month. I have to go back and look at my schedule, see when the last time I used the BTI. But just as a check, and then I think I'm going to be good to go. We're going into the winter months, and I'm not seeing any fungus gnats now, so I have no reason to believe, excuse me, I have no reason to believe that I will see any in the future, but I would consider my switch to layering the top or putting a top layer of lava rocks on as a success. I've also seen one of my one of the people I follow on YouTube use crushed granite on the top. So again, I think any kind of layering on the top that is non-soil layer, so rocks, sand, I think is going to help you get rid of fungus gnats if you have them. So definitely consider that option. It has been a huge success for me. I have over 100 plants and I don't see any fungus gnats flying around at all. So that's pretty much what I did. And I encourage you to try it if you are still struggling with fungus gnats. So I'm going to wrap this live up. I hope that you find it helpful. I talked a lot about all of my experiences with Etsy, Palm Street, Amazon, and Facebook Marketplace. I'm happy to share any of the vendors that I purchased plants with. Overall, I've had the large majority have been extremely positive experiences. I only had one, negative experience where almost all of the plants died. And then as far as my battle with fungus gnats, I have won the battle, at least at this point, and hopefully forever. So I encourage you to try the lava rocks as a viable alternative to help you get rid of fungus gnats. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for joining me on today's live. And let me know, drop it in the chat, what else you'd like me to go on live about, what other experiences that you would like for me to share with you. I'm so happy to share and answer any questions that you have. Drop it in the chat and I will monitor the chat, and respond to any comments that you may have. So thank you again for watching, and I look forward to engaging with all of you in the future. Happy planting.